Hey, what's up mortals? Zigzag here, and welcome to part 7 of What If Naruto Had a Leveling System. Just wanted to invite you guys to sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin.
Bring it on! I'll take both of you on myself!
Sakura roared. She dodged a kunai from one of the sound genin, but that was only the beginning of the onslaught of their attacks. She was hit by an air blast from one of the ninjas immediately after. She was thrown back from the attack and collided with a tree. When she did, she exploded into a cloud of cherry blossoms, confusing the two enemy ninja quite a bit. Sakura's laugh could be heard echoing through the air, so they knew she was still nearby. The trees were also getting larger for some reason. They felt unusually small. What was happening? Dosu was the first to realize they were trapped in a genjutsu. It didn't seem like anything special, so he tried implementing some pain to escape it. He was about to stab himself in the hand, but Zaku grabbed his arm. Dosu looked at his companion, and was immediately punched in the face by the spiky-haired boy. This attack was followed up by a kick to the gut and then the face. Dosu was sent flying through the air. He was confused. Why would his comrade betray him all of a sudden? Also, Zaku wasn't good enough at taijutsu to pull off moves like this. The only conclusion he could come to was that someone had swapped places with Zaku while he was distracted in the genjutsu. Then he felt a pair of arms grab him while he was in the air. He turned around to see a new face wrapping him up in bandages. This person had a bowl cut and a green jumpsuit. Dosu attempted to escape, but the restrictions put on him were too tight. As he began falling to the ground, he was sent into a spin. He was sent spinning headfirst towards the ground. Right before they hit the ground, Rock Lee released his hold and jumped to safety. But the same couldn't be said for Dosu. His head cracked open like a melon as soon as he made contact with the ground. Blood gushed onto the snow-covered ground. The snow was stained crimson red, while Zaku, who was trapped within Shikamaru's shadow possession jutsu, was left to simply watch. He screamed in horror, but it was a waste of breath. He was incapable of escaping this jutsu on his own. Oh, that's just great. What else could possibly go wrong? Thanks for the help, you guys. I'm not sure if I could have handled them all on my own. The girl was just a lucky shot, and the genjutsu was made on a whim. One of the very first techniques Kurenai-sensei taught me, Sakura explained. Oh, I thought you were being taught by Kakashi, though, Shikamaru pointed out. I mean, Kakashi is my sensei, but he seems to be more interested in training Sasuke so he could unlock his Sharingan before the exams. I messed up my chances of training with Naruto as well, so I ended up begging Kurenai-sensei to train me. It took a couple of days for her to agree to teach me some of her techniques, though. Oh? What broke her? I mentioned how she could probably brag to my sensei about how I managed to progress at a faster rate with her help, if I made it to the final stage of the Chunin exams, where we display our skills in front of everyone. Shikamaru snickered hearing this. Of course Kurenai would take an opportunity like that. He looked back at the mess they had made and nodded towards Ino. She was a little squeamish about blood, but she walked over to the last surviving member of the sound genin. His eyes widened when he saw a kunai in her hand, and the implications of what she was about to do. He begged for mercy, but she was hearing none of it. She slit his throat and Shikamaru released his hold. Choji checked everyone's pockets for two things. The first was food, and the second was their scroll. Along the way, he also took up their equipment in case anyone else wandered in and started looting. When he found the scroll, he tossed it to Sakura. Their team had no need for it, as it was the same as theirs, a heavenly scroll. Team 10 picked up Sasuke, and it didn't take long for the rest of Rock Lee's group to turn up and help with Naruto. Too many people were dying out here. They needed to keep as many people as alive so they could work together more effectively. People were dying from being incapable of adjusting to the weather or just being too weak to fight the monsters here. Ino mentioned that they came across an ice bear nest at one point while they were trying to find Sakura, but most of them were dead already. There was only one left, but they could handle it pretty easily. They were curious to know what group could have possibly killed so many of the bears. They'd have to watch out for them and the ice elves. The elves were the biggest burden throughout all of this. They needed to defeat the boss soon and get out of here or they would all be dead next. They brought Naruto and Sasuke back to the campsite. They sat by the fire in order to warm themselves up. Shikamaru wondered how there were so many people that managed to survive for so long on the Earth Scrolls side. Hardly any of the genin looked like anything special. Maybe it was like with his group. One boy from the Sand Village managed to dish out some incredibly strong and brutal attacks to his opponents. The Ice Elves seemed to realize this and were targeting him first. The sand blocked all of their arrows though, and he sent a barrage of piercing attacks right back at them. He was killing 4 or 5 enemies with each attack. Shikamaru broke into a cold sweat recalling the event. The sand-wielding boy also started muttering something about his mother out of nowhere. That guy kinda freaked him out. So how are you guys able to take down a nest of ice bears on your own? That is, if you guys are the ones who did that, Shikamaru asked, curiously. Sakura explained how she, Sasuke, and Naruto managed to use their own set of moves in order to defeat one that approached their safe zone. Shikamaru was surprised to hear about Naruto's sudden increased strength and speed. He guessed the monsters were starting to show themselves. It was like these guys were just in their element. He shuddered thinking about what would happen if they ever switched sides. Shikamaru and the rest of Team 10 got up not too long after to make their way back to their own group. Unfortunately, they had to run back not too long after. Shikamaru's face was pale. It looked like he'd seen a ghost. Sakura was about to ask what was going on until she heard the sound of horses charging in. Her heart began to beat faster as she could only think of one thing. She didn't want to believe it. There was no way these guys could have found them. Sure enough, their tormentors since they entered this dimension were here. Sakura tried waking up Sasuke and Naruto since they needed as much manpower as possible if they wanted to have a fighting chance here. Sasuke was the first one to wake up and he immediately went into a frenzy. The curse mark seemed to be taking effect over Sasuke's actions. He charged at the Ice Elves and sent a fireball jutsu at them. The attack was larger and stronger than any he had used before, and this one jutsu turned a good amount of these guys into ash. This surprised the Ice Elf leader, but he didn't stop his pursuit of the genin. He froze when he heard the screams of some of his men behind him. A boy with spiky auburn hair and green eyes was killing off his men in the back. Left and right, no one seemed to be safe. Sakura was trying to shake Naruto awake. She knew that these guys would only last so long against an army. He started moving a little, which was a good sign that he was beginning to wake up. When he finally woke up, he rubbed his eyes and stretched, wondering what was going on. He was dreaming before about the last thing he had to deal with while in the job change dungeon. It was the whole reason he had stayed in that dungeon for so long. Once he had defeated all the monsters within the dungeon, a notification opened up. He opened it to reveal a message congratulating him for completing the dungeon. After all his points were considered, the screen gave him a message informing him of what his new job or title was. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw it. He didn't want to believe it at first. He was terrified, in all honesty. He was hesitant to accept it. He wanted to decline at first and find something else before he became Hokage. The screen asked if he was sure he wanted to decline. There was no guarantee that an opportunity like this would ever come up again. The boy thought about it and sighed. His curiosity got the best of him, and he accepted the job, and found out his position was that of Shadow Lord. The screen went on to describe in detail what a Shadow Lord was. He could summon the souls of the dead to fight for him. Although Naruto was still a little uncomfortable about the fact that he was basically controlling the undead, he would basically be building an army to help him fight. Add in his shadow clones and he would be a force to be reckoned with. Naruto was brought back to reality though. He no longer had any time to have flashbacks. He looked straight ahead and saw what all the commotion was. Everyone was doing their best to fend off the Ice Elves, but many were losing. Naruto got up and wandered over to the others. Sakura followed. "Arise!" Naruto exclaimed. His voice was cold when he said this, devoid of emotion. His eyes also glowed. His aura exploded as several silhouettes appeared from his shadow. Sakura's eyes widened in awe as she saw Naruto summon several shadow soldiers in the form of knights and ice bears. Naruto ran forward. He made his way through the group, cutting down the remaining soldiers of the opposing army. The tides of war were taking a turn. The Ice Elf numbers were dwindling at a rapid pace. Even when his soldiers were destroyed by some of the Ice Elves, he was easily able to reform them. Even though that snake guy did something weird to him earlier, messing with his chakra, it seems that this system was unaffected. There were different properties to it. Everyone stopped fighting when they saw Naruto's army dismantling the Ice Elves. Were these some sort of weird summon? They'd never seen anything like this before. Naruto was also sending daggers flying about the place as well. It was as if he was controlling them with his mind alone. What was he? He seemed to be the only one capable of even contending with the Eye-Self leader. As he struggled against the being, it asked why Naruto was fighting. The crystals in the being's head told it to kill any humans it saw. But it wasn't getting that message in its mind when it saw Naruto. It didn't seem to detect him as human, which is why it was left in curiosity as to why. Its only conclusion was that Naruto wasn't human, or at least not all human. Naruto decided to not get drawn into a conversation with the being. He found an opening in its defenses and pushed it back for a while. He was about to deal a finishing blow, but the boy from the Sound Village tagged in. Sand wrapped around the last surviving elf's body. It was from head to toe. It was unable to escape from the sand coffin. The sand began to contract right after, crushing the elf. Its organs spewed out of the sand coffin, but most of the blood was absorbed by the sand. It was done. The portal opened up, giving everyone the chance to escape. While almost everyone immediately fled, some turned on each other in order to snatch the other's scrolls. Naruto decided to stay behind. He wanted to see if he could find any of the remains of the Eye-Self captain. The best he could find was its skull, with some skin still remaining. He tried to reanimate the being because of how powerful it was, but his efforts were fruitless. He tried 3 times, but nothing happened. He ended up settling for the Eye-Self captain's dagger instead. It wasn't a total waste, he supposed. He had another item to add to his arsenal. He left the gate afterwards. Only a day seemed to have passed while they were in that realm. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura ended up being one of the first teams to actually make it past the second stage of the exam.
Thank you all for indulging yourself in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a primary channel called We the Celestials. We the Celestials is what we do here already, but their content is centered around the crazy world and lore of My Hero Academia. So please, check us out over there if you're feeling in the mood for a roller coaster of quirky content. We also have another relative to our channel, Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's guaranteed to expand your weeb knowledge on all kinds of series. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members 16 years old and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which is in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interests. We're always looking for new members to join us. Well, that's all from us today, so thank you for watching and have a great day.